Hey guys, I want to show you a quick song today. It's a jazz standard called Why Try to Change Me Now. It's been covered by many people, probably the most recent, or maybe not the most recent, but Fiona Apple did a version of it and she did a really nice job of it. We're going to be in the original key, which is F major. However, being that it's a jazz tune, you may go in and out of keys. But this is pretty tame as jazz standards go. You're going to need about 6 or 7 chord forms, and I'll show you those now. You're going to need a G minor 7. Please do this form. You're going to need a C9 right above it. You're going to need an F major 7. I don't really like to play it that low, but for this version we will. There's so many options when you're playing jazz chords, and I've done it for a long time. Eventually you want to get to the point where you have enough flexibility to make snap decisions on where you want to play these chords, but let's just keep it simpler for now. That's a 2-5-1 in F. It's F major, so we have G minor, C9, and F major 7, but it's G minor 7. After that, then we are going to go to a D9. All of a sudden you're changing keys, in a sense. Now jazz players, this is the 6th chord in the key of F. If we go F, G, A, B, C, D, it should be a D minor chord. But jazz players love to take the 6th chord and make it a dominant chord, meaning a 7th chord. That gives them more flexibility when it comes to soloing. So we're going to do the D9, then we go back to G minor 7 to C7. Okay, but we're not going to resolve to F. We're going to switch keys in a sense. We're going to go to the key of G minor. Jazz is very hard to explain at first. Once you do it and get experience, you know exactly what they're doing. They're doing a minor 2-5-1 into the first chord of the song, basically. So we have A minor 7 flat 5, and then D7 flat 9. You can do that because it has a common tone of E flat. But you can also do the Hendrix chord for the 2nd chord. The Hendrix chord is probably easier to do than the D7 flat 9. But the advantage, you have an advantage to both. The Hendrix chord gives you that spread out sound where the voicings are moving in opposite directions, contrary motion. The flat 9 gives you the common tone. I know it's a lot of explaining, but just so you get the idea of what's going on. Now we go back to G minor, then E flat 9. One of the best changes in the whole song. I love this. I call it the Beethoven effect. Beethoven was really the first to do a movement in thirds when it comes to modulating, because we have modulated here slightly. If you go E flat up to G, you've got a major 3rd. Right? You can go either way modulating. I don't have to go G minor up to B flat, which would be the modulation of a 3rd, or B. We're doing a reverse modulation, which I'd like to call it. We're going from G minor to E flat, but we're going E flat. They're still a 3rd apart. Beethoven was famous for changing keys by 3rd. He was one of the most influential musicians of all time. Well, we won't get into that discussion now. I'd go on forever. Okay, after the G minor, E flat 9, let's go back to A minor 7 now. We're starting to descend back to G minor. We're going to get there, A flat diminished. Now we're assuming you're just playing a guitar part and you don't really have a strong bass part. If you have a strong bass part, then you're going to have to completely retool what you're doing. And then we go back to G minor, C9, F major 7. After we go back to that F major 7, we're going to do a turnaround. The turnaround is nothing more than getting us back to the beginning of the song, which is G minor. When you're doing a turnaround, I like the Hendrix chord better. Let's see, the first turnaround, which is at bar 4, let's go with D7 flat 9. How's that? Let's compromise. And then as we go through the second 4 measures, let me play those. Go to the final 8. The song's only 16 bars long. Very unusual for a standard. Typically jazz standards are 32 bars. This is only 16. So what we're going to do is go into section 2. direction. Nothing changes. D9, G minor 7, C9, 2, 5, 1 into G minor, E flat 9, diminished, 2, G minor, 5, C9 or C7. Now here's a turnaround back to the beginning. It's a very cool turnaround. That's a D minor 9th. What's written is D minor 7. And it's good for funk and some jazz stuff, but I really like. Now we're going to go to D flat 9, leading us to, this is obviously where this is a tritone substitution. A lot of big words in jazz, tritone. This D flat going to G is a tritone, meaning it's a diminished fifth apart. Here's your fifth. It's got that kind of, I don't know if you want to call it evil sound, mysterious sound. Call it evil. But that's, listen to the bass in those two chords. That's the turnaround back to the beginning. So we've got F for 2 beats. It's the beautiful. If you open up your ears when you're playing music, especially when you're learning music as a young musician, or even if you're learning at an older age more complex music like jazz, really listen to the bass. I can't say that enough. The bass being the most important instrument, and probably the instrument that's going to help you as a guitar player the most. If you listen to bass lines, many times you can figure out what the chords are. Sometimes if you ignore the bass lines, like I see a lot of times on chord charts or on tabs, where the tabber has got the chord completely wrong because they weren't listening to the bass. They thought they heard a certain chord, and they were half right. Okay, in chords you can't be half right, because even one note wrong will give you a pretty sour sound. So always listen to the bass. All right, now let's try to get through this. Now I'm going to play the first 8. D9, 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1 into G minor, second 8, second 4, sorry. A minor, A flat diminish, G minor 7, C9, C7, F major, D9, 6 chord, G minor 2 chord, 5 chord, C7, turn around, kind of a turnaround, back to G minor, now E flat 9, E flat 9, measure 8, 9, D9, G minor 7, C7 or C9, turn around, G minor 7, E flat 9, A minor 7, A flat diminished, last 2 bars, that's pretty much it. That's the song. I know I explained a lot really fast, but your job is not to worry about how fast it's played or how many bass notes I added. Your job is to learn the chords. Slow and steady. Let me do that again. First 2 measures. next two, this is measures 5 and 6, E flat 9, A minor 7, A flat diminished, 2, 5, 1, this is G, C7, back to F. Now we're going to turn around back to G minor, second 8 measures, this is measure 9, F, 2, 5, 1, in G minor, good. Who am I saying? 2, E flat 9, A minor, A flat diminished. There you go. Now here's the last measure, or turnaround. I catch a break here, look. D minor 9, D flat 9. I would end on F. I mean, you got to get to F sometime. So one time fast through the tune, and then we're done. Okay, that's it. If you have any questions, hit me up. I'm sorry that was so quick, but I could be here forever explaining that tune. Alrighty, good luck, and we'll do some more things soon.